And I loved Barack Obama the other day tweeting all, peace, love, and mung beans reaction to Charlie Kirk's death. But he was the guy who said, when they bring a knife to a gunfight, you bring a gun. I mean, he was the ultimate guy in all of this. But there's so much hypocrisy on this. And I want to get your reaction to this one here, because there's been a lot of people on the left who've been really hating, but one person on the left who tries to say that they're being nice about this, New York City mayoral candidate, the socialist Zohran Mamdani, tweeted, "I'm horrified by the shooting of Charlie Kirk at a college event. Political violence has no place in our country." But this seems incredibly hypocritical, because just 2 years ago, this was a guy who was calling on a ban on Charlie Kirk and his Turning Point USA group holding an event in Queens. Joe, I think Zohran needs to understand a bit more of the spirit that Charlie Kirk operated with.
Yeah, I guess Charlie didn't operate in the spirit of globalize the intifada, which obviously Zohran Mamdani has defended. I mean, I could go on and on as far as Mamdani is concerned, but overall, yeah, the hypocrisy is overwhelming. I mean, we saw Stephen Colbert, for example, talking about how there is no place for violence in this country, and we never should be calling for anybody to be hurt. He said that on his show, this week. And well, you could go back and look at the clips where he literally said that let's put Donald Trump in a glue factory, which means, let's kill him, right? Before he could actually inflict some harm. Tim Walz, who was the vice presidential candidate, James, he was literally rooting for, just last week, news that Donald Trump was actually dead when legacy media here pushed that whole ridiculous gossip rumor around because Donald Trump hadn't spoke to the press in 2 days, when interestingly enough, like Joe Biden would go like a month without speaking to the press, and no one ever questioned that. I could go on and on, James, but yeah, the hypocrisy is thick, so thick you could cut it with a knife, is the old saying.
Well, one of the ones that I think has made a lot of headlines, at least here in Australia, was one of the analysts at MSNBC. Here was how he talked about the shooting.
We don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, so we have no idea about this. But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
Now, Joe, he wound up getting fired for that. He lost his gig on MSNBC, and the network apologized. But here's the thing. He's not alone. This is the way an awful lot of people think.
Yeah, there have been some despicable comments made after this assassination. I mean, obviously, you mentioned Matthew Dowd, who is a profoundly horrible human being, actually blaming Charlie Kirk himself the same way Matthew Dowd blamed Donald Trump after his assassination attempts for, in Dowd's mind, they brought it on themselves and therefore they deserved it. We also heard on MSNBC that maybe a Trump supporter, and again, that was Dowd, said, well, maybe he's just celebrating and shooting the moment and accidentally hit Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is utterly delusional. And the fact that this aired on national television is reckless and it's rancid. So overall, look, you would think that after 9/11, for example, we saw our media here in the United States report responsibly, and everybody as citizens came together. We're not seeing this now. I'm not comparing 9/11 to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but you would think that this would be a 99-1 issue where most people here in the country would say, this is horrible, this is wrong, this is a dad of a very young daughter and a baby boy, and this is so sad that his wife, Erica, has to go through this. And instead, we're seeing this almost like a 50-50 thing where people are saying, well, because Charlie Kirk engaged in some dialogue I didn't agree with, therefore maybe he deserved it. It's disturbing, James.
Well, and this reaches right to the top. It's not just, crazy people in academia and just weirdos on TikTok. This was Joe Biden's former press secretary, Jen Psaki. Have a listen to this.
And obviously, there's a lot of rhetoric that is problematic. A lot of it is coming from one particular side and from one particular building.
So it's a harmful rhetoric from the right here, again, that's causing this. It's this sort of climate of violence sort of thing. We've seen this over and over again in American history, where whenever something goes wrong, they blame the right for their words.
Wow, fascinating. Was it the right? Was Joe Biden, is he on the right? Because the last check, he is not. And when he was president, 4 days before an assassination attempt was engaged on Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, July 13, 2024. Joe Biden, the sitting president, said it is time to put Donald Trump, quote, in a bullseye, unquote. Oh, I know Donald Trump was nearly assassinated twice, and I know Charlie Kirk, my friend, is dead. So, yeah, give me the examples on the left of people dying. I'd love to hear it because it just doesn't exist.
Joe Concha, look, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.